Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Extra Credits, the one podcast we talk about video games, and nothing but video games, and sometimes video game butts. Joining me is the play giver himself, Castor Gravedigger.
Genesis does what Nintendon't.
Exactly. And then John is up here saying, "I just came here to say, SNES is for."
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, mother truckers. Yes.
Yes, it's for yes. Sorry. Yeah. I'm still feeling a bit under the weather. Let me just say, if Castor offers you a steaming cup of green liquid and say, "Hey, try this," please, for the love of God, don't try it.
Pussy.
No, I drank it. I wasn't a pussy, I'm literally paying the price right now. It
No,
gave
it's...
me a plague, sir.
Well, I can't help it. They switched vials on me. I choose violence at me ho. That's what John says.
Well, we all know Sega does what Nintendo. So,
Yes, it
uh,
does.
yeah, we don't have any headlines for you today, so we're just gonna raw dog it right into the main topic.
Basically, blast processing destroys all playground arguments.
We're going the '90s back. So the question here is, why is Sega still so relevant today, and why do so many people love Sega when its best days are 20 years behind them, arguably?
I think that's the point. I think it's a you know it's a symbol of lost good times. That's really what it is. Because like when you sit down and play some Sega Genesis games or Dreamcast or Sega Saturn, man, you just nostalgia waves hit you.
Right in the
Yeah,
face. Right in the
yeah, like
face.
that like the opening there, just it hit a core memory.
Yeah, like somebody just booting up Sonic 2 like Saturday mornings. Um,
Mm.
your parents haven't woken up, so the house isn't filled with racial epithets and screaming and throwing dishes. Oh wait, sorry, that's my childhood.
Hell, that was last week.
Did your minions get into it again?
Oh no, but we start booting up the Sega. I hear racial epithets in the background. But anywho,
Did they wanted? Okay, they were trying to choose between Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Decap Attack, weren't they?
oh yeah, pretty much.
I mean, isn't every day Zombies Ate Your Neighbors at your
Mm.
place?
And the and non neighbors and dogs and cats and pigs, woodchucks, whatever. But anyways, so we're here to talk about how great Sega is and why it's still relevant and everything. And I think it's what it is. It's just it's the games are so great and the systems are so great that they basically lasted the test of time that we're still talking about them right now.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo will always have, as long as Nintendo is still relevant in the game industry, people are always going to be talking about their older systems, but because they'll have that link to the past, and but with Sega, we haven't had anything. They're just a developer right now, but I think that's what it is they'll throw out something that basically hits that nostalgia and it just makes you think about all the other great games that they made back in the day. And the 16-bit era was just a magical time. Like I said, it was playground fights. Who had the better system, Super Nintendo or the Sega Genesis?
Who had the better version of Aladdin? Like that
Who
was
had the
kind of
better
the thing
version?
about that was kind of
Yeah,
the beauty of the Super Nintendo and Genesis. Like you could have two games like Aladdin, and they'd be two very different games.
yeah. Well, because the systems, weren't the same when it comes to like their powers and specs. So
Other development houses like had
yeah,
Virgin Interactive did the Genesis version, and Capcom did the Super Nintendo version of Aladdin.
yeah, yeah. So you have like two different versions with two different companies, and basically just again two different specs. Because honestly, if you want to get right down to it, yes, the Super Nintendo is the more powerful system when it comes to just pure specs. If you're just gonna put them on paper, yes. The only thing that the Genesis outperforms is blast processing, which is a
And by
term no
blast
one.
processing is the processor is I think double the clock speed of the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, and it's just the amount of colors that can be displayed on the screen at one time, and the Genesis can do better than the Super Nintendo when it comes to that.
Uh,
Um,
I I don't know because like all the Genesis games always seem to have like worse colors than the Super Nintendo.
mm, it depends on what games you're playing because there's some really good looking Sega Genesis games, but
I think it was more of
um,
like the blast processing, especially when it came to Sonic, is like the games could run better. Like you
mhm.
couldn't really make a game like Sonic on the Super Nintendo, and I say that, and I'm sure some people are like, Speeding Gonzalez, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know if it could handle that or not, but yeah, and that was the thing. But yeah, so when you get down to specs, yes, the Super Nintendo is the much more powerful system, but man, the it's almost a work of art. Some of the games that the developers of that worked with the Genesis made, amazingly. Um, some of the great gaming effects that we see. Um, Sometimes
Yeah.
they do stuff that almost mimics like Mode 7, but it's
Oh
not.
yeah. Like like I think we've seen some of that from like the homebrew scene, like Pier Solar on the Genesis had like a Secret of Mana esque flight sequence in it.
Yeah, and it was amazing how that was in the game, and it looked like Mode 7, but it wasn't. It was just very very well made to look like that. And but it was a lot of effects that they had managed to achieve on it, and of course when you put the add-ons to the Sega Genesis, it just makes it that much better. More so the Sega CD than anything. Um, you get more power, more I'd say better graphics, and of course better music too.
This is a homebrew game. This game came out 20 years after the Genesis died. Just putting that out there. And of course, it's being stupid. But yeah, just I've got to start using a different browser. This is getting ridiculous.
But the
But
amount
continue,
of the
Caster.
but the amount of games for the system is astonishing because it did come out before. And that's the thing that's interesting about Sega. They always managed to put a system out before the competition. Um, Now they did make the mistake of launching. Um, was it the Master System? They launched it with the NES,
The Master System came out like I think 2 years after the.
or was it their previous system before the Master System? I think it was. I know they released a console with the same day as like the Famicom, and it was a disaster. Um, they sold decently, but yeah, but what are you going to release on the same day as that? But anyways, when you get to the Sega Genesis is actually an '80s console. When you think about it, we always think of it as '90s, but technically it's an '80s console because it came out in 1989, and its whole shtick was um, at first was bringing the arcade home. That's what it was. And the games, while not arcade perfect, were pretty freaking close to what you
Caster,
wanted.
look at this.
Yeah.
This is pretty. This is the second. This is on the Sega Genesis.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it looks like something from like a Super Nintendo game. like Final Fantasy or something.
Yeah. Now again, just to be fair, this is homebrew after the fact. So of course it's going to be, they're going to find tricks that they couldn't, but still.
Oh, but still, the fact that they can push the system to do that's what's amazing about it. You know.
Oh yeah, like we're talking about the demo scene. Someone actually got Bad Apple to run on the Genesis, and it looked really freaking good. If you're not aware, Bad Apple is a song that's often used for video game demos. Have you heard of that, Castor?
Actually, I've not.
All right, we'll talk about that after the stream. I'll show you some.
All right. But that's the thing about, like I was saying, that's the thing about, say, the Sega Genesis. It was there to be the arcade brought home, and then of course the Super Nintendo came out, and I think it was like 1991. They decided to bring out Sonic as a mascot.
Well, the thing about the Sega is, and I think this is kind of lost upon some of the new generations. Without Sega, the video game industry would be a lot different because Sega forced Nintendo to innovate.
Yes.
Because when the Genesis came out, Nintendo had no plans. They were just gonna be like, "All right, we'll have the NES for as long as we can have it." They didn't start working on the Super Nintendo till after the Genesis, or at least they didn't go into high gear.
Yeah. Because what's the point? They could have just kept going, with the NES.
Yeah, and the NES stuck around until 95. Like the NES was still getting games as late as 93, 94, 95-ish.
Now, and that's the thing is again, what is the motivation for the innovation? And that is arcade. The people have been wanting arcade perfect at home since the Atari 2600. That was one of the selling points.
It wasn't. I think the Dreamcast was kind of that tipping point because the Dreamcast was the first time. Not only could you have arcade at home, you oftentimes got Arcade Plus.
Yeah, exactly.
The Dreamcast was the first time they were better than the arcades.
Oh yeah. And see, that's the thing is like I said, back in the Atari 2600 days, people were wanting. That's why people bought Pac-Man for the 2600, even though it sucks. It's nothing like it.
Even going back further than that, the 2600 when it came out did okay, but what really set it off was having Space Invaders. I think that was 79, 80. When they got Space Invaders, that was the first killer app. That was the first time of having the arcade at home.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what people have been wanting for the longest time is because honestly, if the best games graphically for the longest time was at the arcade, because you could have dedicated machines with dedicated hardware that are just powerhouses because they're just playing one game, or for some of them you could swap boards out, or you could swap the ROMs out and
Plus,
switch.
It's a lot, you could have more expensive hardware. Because
exactly.
With a console, you got to sell these consoles at $200 a pop in 80s money. But an arcade cabinet, you could sell that to an arcade owner for $600, $1,000, and they'll do it because they'll get their money back.
Oh, they'll definitely get their money back, and then some. And the things were. That's why, back in the early '80s, and actually, I should say in the late '70s, in the '80s, when I guess the beginnings of the arcade, you would find arcade machines everywhere. They would be in funeral parlors, for crying out loud, because anywhere that you could have anywhere that you were just sitting idly, you have people just sitting around, you could be like, hey, I'm going to throw a Pac-Man machine right there. Bam. Money. It's
the reason why you go to a laundromat. You'll still find a few arcade machines around. Because arcade machines, a laundromat, you still use quarters. And you're at a laundromat and you're just sitting there. And you're like, well, I've got 75 cents left, and I got 20 minutes to wait. Oh, there's an arcade machine. Fine, I'll put those quarters in there. Have some fun.
Exactly. So that's the thing. So people, so like I said, if you wanted to find out what great games were coming out, like if you looked, like especially like in Japan too, because there was some just amazing games that never got over here. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, the arcade scene, the games were absolutely amazing, and the people would go to the arcades to play these amazing games. And when Sega said, "Hey, guess what? We can really bring it home," and while not a one-to-one comparison, was pretty darn close if you look at them. That's what the selling point for the originally for the Sega Genesis was. You know, because they had Golden Axe, they had
Altered Beast.
Alter Beast, and these were like versions of their arcade games. You know, and
Yeah,
so
like you boot up your Genesis, and you boot up Altered Beast, and you hear "Wise from your grave."
yeah, so it was like it was amazing, and the fact that they actually had voiceovers in some of the games. You know, as limited as it could be. You know, that's probably like the only talking in the game. But you know, or when finally when we had Sonic and you had the iconic Sega, that was just so cool to hear that.
Well, the reason they did that is because they had so much space
Oh
left.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That whole Sega opening is more space the entire game, I believe.
indeed. Yeah.
I believe it's actually more. There's more in there for that than the actual game. But yeah, so that's originally why they brought it there was for Arcade Perfect, and Sega was promising that, and then of course Nintendo was like, well, we gotta do something, so they upped all their stuff. So
Oh
that point,
God.
everything was super. So we had Super Mario, Super Mario World. We had Super Punch Out, Super Metroid. I'm surprised it wasn't called Super Legend of Zelda. Uh,
Yeah.
Everything
Here's
was
Altered Beast. Like, look at that.
yeah, yeah, and that's almost arcade perfect.
Oh, look, somebody's live talking about Sega Genesis. Oh, sorry. Somebody's
Oh
live
yeah,
talking about Sega. I just love how our stream is being suggested right now. That's actually kind of funny.
yeah. It's
Um,
Inception, Streamception.
oh
But yeah,
God.
look how great this is. This is very close to like what the arcade looked like. Um, Graphically, of course, the arcade did look better, but this was just like light years.
All right, here's the arcade of Altered Beast.
I can already tell. Look how great that looks just from that. Yeah, and
Yeah,
look
like
at that. That's
it
very
obviously.
close.
Yeah, very close. That's yeah. Yeah, this is a launch title for the Genesis, by the way. Look,
Oh
not
yeah,
this, but yeah, the port.
yeah.
Yeah, and this was
So,
very close.
and of course, when Super Nintendo came out, then that's when the great 16-bit rivalry began, and each system was trying to outdo each other.
What's funny is before Sonic, Alex Kidd was pretty much like their mascot.
Yeah, that's what they really wanted to do. That transmission sequence I always love. But yeah, that's who they tried to that's who they tried to get to be their mascot, Alex Kidd. I'm so glad we went in this timeline. We got Sonic. Imagine the bad timeline that has Alex Kidd as the mascot.
Oh God. And this is Alex Kidd.
And I believe Alex Kidd is supposed to be like what, the Monkey King or something, because he
like the
looks like a
games
monkey.
aren't the games aren't terrible. Like I've never actually played them. I need to try and play
Oh,
them.
they are. Oh, they are terrible. They're absolutely terrible.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you can. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there who likes them, and that's fine. But for me, no. Yeah, I'm so glad we didn't get Alex Kidd as our mascot. But we had Alex Kidd. We had like what was it?
The boss
Decap
fights
Attack.
are rock paper scissors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and then
wonder
we
what
also had
he's.
stuff like Shinobi. You know.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah, Shinobi was great. Yeah. Um.
I also uh
Oh,
Shinobi.
Revenge of Shinobi, which what they are, the one that came out for the initially for the Genesis.
Also, like I love like the whole copyright infringement for like Shinobi.
Oh yeah, well, what it was is they had at this time they were making. Yeah, that is Spider-Man, ladies and gentlemen. Um,
So they had to like they did it and like they did it without permission, but they did eventually get the right to use Spider-Man.
but the story behind this is that they had made Spider-Man games, Batman games, Godzilla games, and they had the rights to them technically at the time that they're making this.
Mhm.
So they were like, well, you know what? Let's put these in the game for like no reason, just because we can.
Yeah.
And eventually they did get in trouble because like after they lost the rights to the characters, they couldn't keep making copies of
Oh,
Shinobi. So there's
oh,
several different
now he's
versions of.
Batman. He's Batman now.
He's Batman. So there's several different versions of Revenge of Shinobi out there.
Yeah, and
If you
also
get
the
if you get
version you get online, you will not be fighting Spider-Man.
oh no, so you have to get one of the earlier versions of the game to actually play that.
Yeah.
But if you get like say the classics version, it's not going to be that. Even some of the ones that look like the actual original version, it's not. I don't know how to tell the difference though.
Yeah, I mean I get that. Um there we go. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
fighting Godzilla!
yep, Godzilla, yep, because they
How
just had
cool
the
is
rights. They
that?
said screw it.
How cool is that? Like this is something that would never happen now. Not without like a billion lawyers getting in the middle.
Yeah.
So, Castor, let me ask you this question: what are some of your favorite Sega games in general?
Sega games in general. Well, I mean, I love. Uh, of course, the Sonic games are always fun to play.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Streets of Rage 2, probably one of my all-time favorites. It's definitely in the top five.
Oh, the
Streets of Rage
soundtrack.
2, soundtrack's absolutely amazing. Um,
Yuzu Koshiro. Oh, you are a god.
I would say probably. Um, Probably I would say my favorite would be Streets of Rage 2, then Streets of Rage 1, then Streets of Rage 3.
Okay.
Um, Streets of Rage 3 gets a lot of crap, but the thing is, it's a good game. It's kind of a crappy Streets of Rage game, but it's still a good game. Um, but I enjoy Streets of Rage 2 more. And when they came out with 4 was just an absolute masterpiece and a love letter that it hit me deep as someone who played a lot of Streets of Rage back in the day. Um, it really hit me hard as a fan of like how much love and care was taken into the game. So Streets of Rage 4, if you haven't played it, go ahead and play it. That's just anybody watching
All
the
right.
stream. It's a great
Hey,
game.
Cameron Bailey. Honestly, no. If they did their games, it'd be sailing. Okay, that is a hot take there.
For what?
Read it.
Are you ready to risk anything
No, no. What
on
Cameron's
the
saying.
Streets of Rage? Oh, he said, honestly, no. If they did, their games would be sailing. Selling?
I mean, it's the Cameron's got a point. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, this looks so good. They put so much effort into this.
Yeah. And I love this. I have this for the Nintendo Switch. Um, awesome game, awesome response. Like it's so good. It's not a slapdash. It is made with love and care, and it is a great. It
I
is
would say this game brought belt scrollers back.
yeah, side scroller beat 'em ups. And let me tell you what, this right here, um, I mean, it was made like it's is worthy to be stand up within the franchise. Like it's a worthy successor.
So this is a bit of an aside, but do you know the game that was almost Streets of Rage 4?
Fighting Force.
Yes.
Yep.
That was made by Core Designs, and if you look at Fighting Force, you can definitely tell it was meant to be.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Especially after the fact. Yeah.
uh,
But that got wind up in all kinds of legal entanglement. Like it's such a huge knot of legal crap.
all right, we got it. Yeah, like tell me this doesn't look like it was meant to be a Streets of Rage game.
Yeah, definitely was. They were trying to jump over to the 3D.
And I think it almost was, but I think there was some contract where like they
Yeah.
thought they were going to be multi-plat and they wanted this for the Dreamcast.
Yeah,
Like
there
this
was.
almost
Yeah.
was Streets of Rage 4.
Yeah. And I'm glad. And honestly, I'm glad it didn't because this game kind of sucks.
I don't know. I kind of like it.
Well, I mean, teach their own.
Yeah.
But I didn't really care for it. But like, yeah. But I'm glad that with the Streets of Rage 4 we got was what we got, the official
I
one.
mean, another game that's Streets of Rage 4 in spirit is Die Hard Arcade.
Oh really? Oh yeah. I remember. Yeah, I remember watching something about this.
Yeah, it's an entirely different game in Japan. All right. We just get the gameplay ready. But yeah, Die Hard Arcade. Like, I don't think people realize just how big of a franchise Die Hard was in the 90s.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Like, nowadays, people just like, oh, the first movie's so great, it's a Christmas movie. And they never talk about the other movies.
Yeah. Yeah, Die Hard 2 is pretty good. I liked it.
It was actually I think the highest grossing movie of 94, 95.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, insane. I was actually like watching this video about like Pulp Fiction, and they're talking about like the reverberations. Like
Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne was almost cast as Jules in Pulp Fiction. It was written for him, but
Yeah.
because like his agent said no, they wanted him to get big roles, and he was almost cast in Die Hard, but he kind of was playing hardball with them. And then like,
Yeah.
all right, well, we've been hearing this guy about Sam Jackson. Well, let's go watch Pulp Fiction. And because of that, oh god, Lord, I love history. I love like the reverberations of history. But we're getting beside ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, beat 'em up. I love me some beat 'em ups. But
And then
yeah, for me, oh, go ahead, Cass.
no, go ahead.
For me, I do love me some Sonic, obviously, you know.
Yeah.
Did you ever play the Shining Force games?
I have not. I something I need to get. I do because I've heard they're really great.
Yeah. They're basically like kind of like the Fire Emblem stuff.
Yeah. But yeah. So some of my favorite Sega Genesis games would have to be like Castlevania Bloodlines is always a great game.
Now you can talk about more than just Sega Genesis. Remember that.
Oh, I know. We're talking about more, but I'm just kind of leading up into that because I was gonna say then we get to the Sega Saturn era, and this is an era that I personally do not know a whole lot about, honestly, because I never had a Sega Saturn, and I don't own a Sega Saturn because it honestly, as a collector, it is just for some reason that middle child is just impossible to collect for.
It's for a couple of reasons. One, the games are hard to run on other things, and it's been hard to emulate for like so long.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of the games on it haven't gotten re-released.
Yeah, I know. So they're very, very rare. Yeah, so they're gonna be worth. They're worth a shit ton of money. That's another thing too. It's very, very expensive a system to collect for.
But it's very interesting platform, I would say, because it's got some interesting games.
Hmm. And initially, it was meant to be more of a 2D system than a 3D system, but it does do 3D.
Yeah, like
Um,
Tomb Raider was originally meant
hmm.
for it.
That's actually where I first played Tomb Raider. Actually, was on the Sega Saturn. A friend of mine had got a. Now my first, okay, here's my first memory of a Sega Saturn. Right, I had not seen any games for it or anything, and a friend of mine had got it for Christmas, and he was like, "Hey, why don't you come over and check it out?" So me and another friend went to go spend the night at his house, and he was like, "Here, I want to show you this game," and he pops in Guardian Heroes, and I was like, "Okay, cool." Pops it in, presses play. I'm hit with that anime intro, and my jaw dropped because I did not realize that you could do that, like actually have full motion video on a game console. And when I saw the anime opening, I completely just shit my pants. I was just like, "Oh my god, this is absolutely amazing!" And then when I played the game, I was like, "Holy crap, this is awesome!" So um,
And this is
and
Guardian Heroes.
yeah, Guardian Heroes, amazing. It's a rail beat 'em up. And for those who don't know, what that means is there's a there's like a three invisible rails. There's a background, a middle. Like as you can see them, they're switching. There's a foreground, middle ground, and background that you can switch to, like three
Yep.
lanes. So if you want to like dodge, you can actually go, come towards the screen, or as you can see, go back to the screen. You know, great combos and everything. It was a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Had different endings depending on your actions. They had a whole cast of characters to play as and unlock, with different fighting styles and stuff. Honestly, a great game, and it's actually what put Uncle from Another World on YouTube.
Oh God, I love that anime so much.
Yeah.
Oh
When
gosh.
when 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 his nephew brought him over, like he's like, "Hey, look what I got at the game store." And that's the thing, retro gaming in Japan is amazingly cheap. There's still a lot, there's still expensive stuff out there, but you can get almost anything you want relatively cheap. And he went out and got his uncle a Sega Saturn and a copy of Guardian Heroes, which if you go on eBay right now, Japanese Guardian Heroes is like $30-$40. It's not that expensive. English version is like $200. So, anyways, he got him that Japanese version, and I almost had the same reaction as Uncle Sensei there, um, or as Uncle there, because I would have damn near cried too myself.
Oh gosh.
But then he becomes a VTuber, an elf
Oh,
VTuber, and
I I
and
I
yeah.
love this anime so much. A man who chooses Sega console cannot live an ordinary life.
Oh yeah, he went and got what was it? He went and got a copy of a gaming magazine, and it had like the top 100 games or something on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Guardian
Guardian.
Heroes should have been number one. That's exact. Everything he says, I feel that like that.
Innovation, perfection.
Yeah, yeah. He basically is my spirit animal.
Oh God, I love this anime so much. We need to do a series about it at some point.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Yeah,
And
got
it's
it.
like he got him Guardian Heroes. Look at him, he's so happy.
You want to play? Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. And another thing I love about this anime is he's trying to become a YouTuber in it, and like his magic tricks get him some fame. It wasn't until he transformed into his tsundere elf girlfriend, and he did it like a let's play, that he got like a shit ton of views, which is so accurate.
Yeah, which is kind of like some commentary. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody was watching, wasn't really watching them for the retro gaming, was watching because, oh, it was a cute elf girl. So I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
that pretty much sums up the VTuber scene nicely.
Yeah, it's like that classic thing of like, woman posts picture of an art, it gets 3 likes. Women post that same picture, except she's standing next to it, it gets 300 likes.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, the Sega Saturn is that is my unicorn. That is what I would
Yeah,
love to
mine
get.
too.
I would love to have one. Um, I would love to collect for it. Eventually, maybe sometime in the future, I will.
I want my Dreamcast again. I actually had to sell it at some point. I'm sad.
Mm-hmm.
But I miss my Dreamcast. Oh my god, I love that console so much.
Mm-hmm. And there's some actually wonderful mods for the Dreamcast.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you can get a USB replacement on it instead of a power cord.
Oh.
Yeah, USB-C instead of a power cord. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff, but it's really nice.
Yeah, really nice.
Like
Helps
the
out.
homebrew indie scene. Like I don't know if you saw, they put GTA 3. They're working on Vice City now.
On the Dreamcast.
Yeah. By the way, I'm actually friends with Falco, and I'm actually in the Discord where they work on this stuff. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I got the inside scoop.
Okay. That would actually be really fun to play GTA on the Dreamcast.
You can do it now. Like they got to go through some steps, but it's working.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do
Yeah,
they actually have
GTA. Yeah,
they actually have a
GTA
physical
3 is.
copy of it?
Well, no, you can burn a CD if you wanted to.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mm.
Oh yeah. That's another thing. You could burn CDs for the Dreamcast.
I personally feel like it was not as big of a deal as some people make it out to be, because in '99, CD burners were a lot more expensive than they would come to be even a few years later.
Mm-hmm.
Like not like you had to physically buy a CD burner, and they were like $200-300.
Yeah.
Like even just 3 years later, they became standard on PCs, and by 2004, every laptop had a CD burner. Some even had DVD burners.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. But yeah, so yeah, I can't really, like I said, I can't really talk too much myself about the Sega Saturn because I don't really, like I said, never had it. Um, I went a different route in that era. For,
PlayStation.
I went to PlayStation. Yep. I was won over by the PlayStation. I had a friend who had a PlayStation, and yeah,
To be fair, so did I. So
yep. There was just a lot more stuff I wanted to play on PlayStation than on the Sega Saturn. But as I gotten older, I really kind of wish I would have grabbed a Saturn as well. Um,
I mean, especially like a Saturn in like 98, 99, when they were trying to like clearance all that shit.
yeah,
Like you would like
I really wish I
imagine
would have done that.
imagine like buying a copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga for like $10 in like 98 and still
Yeah,
having it and still having the price tag or like the receipt. That's bragging rights.
getting it from Funko Land.
Ooh, yeah. I wish I. Oh God,
What
I
a
just
magical
want
time.
one thing I'm looking forward to in VR is when they start recreating spaces. Like I want to go into a Funko Land, like circa 1997.
Hmm.
But
Yep.
I didn't have much experience with Saturn as a kid. A lot of it came later.
Yeah.
But for me, I did have one experience with Saturn as a child. I was over at a friend's house for like a pool party. It's like I think it was like a friend of my dad's, and they had a Saturn, and I played this game, Bug 2.
Yeah.
Um, I remember I played it for a little while. I think I got to a boss fight, didn't do too good, and then like my dad's friend was like, "All right, you got a boogie." Yeah, he was making a joke because the guy's like the '70s thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like this game, it looks a bit janky, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and for the time, it looks really good too.
Yeah, like I'd say it holds up kind of okay.
Hmm.
Um, I think the multi-plane stuff kind of helps.
Yeah. The fog effects in the background look pretty good too, and that kind of parallax scrolling.
Yeah, this is essentially what the Dreamcast was supposed to do.
Hmm.
And then you had stuff like Clockwork Knight.
Oh yeah.
Like when we talk about like the 2D, 3D stuff, Clockwork Knight is like the shining example of it. Um, but yeah, let's let's talk about this one, and then we'll get some gameplay here. Oh god. See, the reason I clicked off it is because like I got to go through the ads, and I don't
Oh
want
yeah.
that on the screen, so I'm just like taking care of that.
Yeah.
There we go. Like also like this kind of reminds me of Toy Story.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
Toy
you have.
Story is kind of look how good that looks.
Yeah. So you have. It's almost like what we call 2D5.
2.5D, yeah.
Yeah, 2.5D nowadays. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I would love to like play this on original hardware with the CRT. That just sounds so cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just amazing. Um,
I love like the depth effects. It's just
oh
so
yeah.
cool. Yeah. So yeah, before we move on to the Dreamcast, I kind of wanted to give some love to Sega's handheld affairs.
Hmm.
So Sega always made sure you had the correct gear for your gaming.
Hmm.
Caster, what are some of your favorite Game Gear games?
Game Gear games. Well, let's see here. The Shinobi games are excellent and probably some of the best of the handheld. Um, the Castlevania clone Vampire Master of Darkness is also good.
Oh,
Um,
which you did send me, and
yeah,
yeah, it's pretty good.
that's pretty good. So, for if you're gonna copy a franchise, might almost copy a award winning franchise like Castlevania. So, plays almost exactly like Castlevania, and but really
Yeah,
great. Um, and then there's like Tales Adventures, pretty good. And of course all the Sonic games run really well on it too.
I
Um,
always found the Sonic games to be a bit janky on the Game
yeah,
Gear.
a little bit. Yeah, you just got to get used to it. That's the thing. They don't run as smooth as their big brother, obviously, but and of course, you got the whole power issue and whatnot. But one thing I did like and I thought was really cool that because Sega does a lot of things that Nintendo don't, and one of them was they had a TV tuner for the Game Gear.
Oh yeah,
And for those who don't know, it looked like a cartridge with a bunch of knobs and stuff on it and an antenna. And essentially, what you would do is you would uh, turn your Game Gear into a mini color TV, which at that time in the early '90s was like a big deal. Um, so if you think about it, you could take that on the road trip, and this is before we had like portable media, like portable DVD players and portable like have like your phone or an iPad or something to watch movies and stuff on. Um, you could sit in the back seat of the car and watch cartoons or something on your Game Gear. Granted, you had enough battery power, or you had the car adapter version or cable to it. But yeah, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So like nowadays it doesn't really work because tuning, but the thing that really is interesting is you can actually input like you have a video input. I've seen people like hook up their 360s through the Game Gear.
Yeah. What would be really great is if someone would kind of do a mod for that and maybe put in a digital tuner, so you
I
could
think
actually
I think
pick.
there have been people
Yeah.
who've done
So you
that.
can actually you can still use the TV tuner, but because that's what I'm saying. Hardly anybody in the world. There are some rare places where they still use analog signals, but for the most part, it's all digital signals. So that would be kind of cool if you could put like a maybe a mini TV tuner in there or a
All
digital
right,
tuner.
check this out. Check this out.
Oh yeah, I've seen people get their Roku sticks hooked up to it.
Yeah, it is so wild. Like imagine playing RDR2 on that screen.
Yeah, and that's crazy.
That is so crazy. Like it is insane. Legit insane.
There's no need for it. There's no use for it. It's just something that's cool, and that's why we do
Exactly.
stuff anyways.
Because it's cool.
Yeah, we don't ask why a dog needs a third leg sewed on. We just do it because it's cool.
Wait, a third leg?
Yeah, one of the back to
Okay.
push it forward. But anyways, doing a segue here. So, but yeah, the thing that what's cool about today though, um, is that any problems that you have with a lot of like your consoles, we can always like there's mods for it, which I find is which I really love. Is that you can find
Yeah.
a mod or something to alleviate symptoms that was something that was a problem for a system. Like for instance, everyone talks about that battery life on the Game Gear. Well, we have internal battery mods now that take care of that. I know it's
Hmm.
hindsight is 2020, but it didn't help back in the day. But at least now we can actually bring these systems into the future, which is what is
Like
really my
we haven't talked about this yet, but the Sega Nomad.
Sega Nomad. Oh
Like
yeah,
that
forgot about
thing
that one.
that thing was it was a Nintendo Switch about 20 years early.
Hmm. The things the Nomad was interesting. From what I hear, it's pretty clunky to play. I have modded one for a customer one time. It's
They are
not that
not
really.
very ergonomic. They are not
They're
ergonomic at
not
all.
very aerodynamic. Yes, yes. It's kind of weird to hold. They're
It's
more
it's
form.
it's like holding a brick, and it weighs
It's
just about as much. Um,
it's more
like there's
form
no
than function.
yeah, there's no grooves. This is one of the things about like modern technology that I do enjoy is how much good to hold a lot of
Yeah,
modern handhelds are.
yeah. Well, that's the thing is like you got the Game Gear was it feels great in your hands, but then the Nomad is just terrible.
I mean, hell,
Yeah.
look at the original Game Boy. That thing was a
Mhm.
brick, but they contoured it. Like they had enough
Yeah.
smarts because they knew your hand would be resting here, so they curved it. On the other
Yeah.
side, they knew your hand would be this way, so they had no like they squared it.
Yeah.
Like the original Game Boy, it's heavy, but it actually holds in your hand pretty nice.
Yeah. And the Nomad, what I love about it is that the Nomad is actually not only a handheld Sega Genesis, but it's a actual console Sega Genesis. Like you hook it up to your TV and you can actually play off of that. Um, you take the AV cables and hook it up to the system, and which I really would love it if it had this function, but when you hook it up to the TV, the screen that's on it is still going. Like I really wish it would turn off while you have it on the TV. Um, and then
Yeah.
it had an extra controller port on it because what you could do is you could plug in a second player, and that player could play off the TV while you're holding the actual console. So yeah, so you could still have like two-player fun with it. So that's why we say it's the Switch before the Switch, because you could have a handheld mode and a console mode basically with it.
And you're talking about like modern modding fixing some problems. The Nomad had a couple of issues. Obviously, it had the caps problem that all stuff had. The
Yeah,
screen sucked, and the battery life. The screen and battery life are the two big things.
yeah,
So,
and then
like,
and now we can alleviate those down.
yeah, like it's still kind of awkward to hold, but now you can actually have a decent screen on the Nomad, and actually have some battery life. Because the
Hmm.
thing is, the Nomad came with like this big honking battery pack that you just like shove some lithium. It could run for a decent time with modern batteries.
Yeah, well, you would shove six AA batteries into that bad boy, and it would eat them all up alive. But now there is um, a mod you can do. You can get a 3D printed battery pack that fits on the back of your Nomad like the original one would, but this one is made for two basically giant lithium batteries that you can just plug in there. They're
Mm-hmm.
rechargeable, and of course, it actually has a port on the back. I think a USB-C port on the back, so you can actually charge your battery pack, plug it up to the wall, charge it up. But yeah, you'll have basically these big giant lithium batteries in there, so you can enjoy your Nomad, on the go.
Yeah, same
Um,
thing. Like one of the good things about the Game Gear is it has two giant crevices on either side. That is a perfect place to just shove two giant batteries in there.
yeah, and you get a lot of life with the modern lithium ion batteries. So
Yeah, the
yeah,
fact that you can shove two of them in there because you got
yeah,
like two of those crevices.
mm,
It's insane.
yeah. And there are mods for that you can actually include a HDMI and play your Game Gear on the TV.
Yeah, I've seen some people that have consoleized the Game Gear. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Um, and of course that's with with other handhelds too. I mean, there's you know uh, we have modern rechargeable batteries for or lithium ion batteries for like Game Gear, or not Game Gear, but the Game Boy handhelds. You know, Um,
Yeah.
so because even then that was also a problem with the Game Boy, was it did also eat batteries too. Let's not play games. That was also another complaint.
Yeah,
But
I mean, the thing that helped the Game Boy is in the 90s, we had to switch to alkaline batteries. And,
mhm,
Herman's here. I mean, yeah, it's easy to blame Sony for everything.
I blame Sony. Yep, retroactively blame them.
I mean, do you want to talk about the downfall of Sega? Like, we can go through our fan theories and all that stuff. We talked about before, but I don't think we've
Yeah,
done it on this iteration of the show.
yeah. Well, basically, the problem with Sega is Sega. Okay, here's my thing about Sega as a whole, is as a company. First off, Sega likes to fight with itself, such
Yeah.
as the Japanese headquarters and the North American headquarters always bucking heads with each other. There was no cohesiveness in the company. Whereas Nintendo of America and Nintendo Japan kind of work in tandem together. You know, I'm pretty sure they bucked heads before, but not as bad as like Sega of America and
Well,
Sega of Japan. Almost
see,
like we're
Nintendo,
almost antagonists to each other at some
uh,
points.
yeah, like rival projects. See, Nintendo has the benefit of they could always settle it in Smash.
Yeah.
Sorry, the joke wrote itself.
Yeah,
But yeah,
but
like Nintendo of America, Nintendo, and each one had a legitimate gripe because
yeah,
Sega had a lot more success in the West, thanks to the Sega of America, but also because
hmm,
they spent so much on marketing.
yes,
And
hmm,
Sega didn't do that well in America. The Saturn did well in America. I mean, in Japan, like it did
yeah,
gangbusters in Japan.
oh yeah,
Um, yeah, like Japanese Saturn games are kind of a cottage industry in of itself.
yeah,
Like that's a whole section of the retro gaming hobby in of itself.
yeah.
Um,
But
but the
I was
thing
gonna
is, the
say,
32X was strictly a Sega of America concoction because, and the thing is, if you look at it from their perspective, the 32X actually makes somewhat sense because they're like, the Genesis is great. Everyone loves the Genesis. Let's extend the life of the Genesis.
yeah. Well, because they were looking at like with the Sega CD kind of did that too. It kind of extended it out, gave it some more stuff, and they were
Yeah,
kind of I guess kind of trying to replicate that with that, and they're basically just trying to say instead of buying a brand new console, you can buy this add-on and get games that are just as good, arguably. But
I feel
you
like
know,
I feel like in modern times, people tend to loop in the Sega CD with the 32X. It's like, oh, Sega should have done that. The Sega CD did okay. Like it was a
it it.
reasonably successful add-on.
It could have been better. I think that's more of towards marketing, um, because when you think of the Sega CD, what games do you mostly think of when it comes to the marketing of it? It's all the FMV live action games, and a
The
lot of
Sega CD
those,
had two advantages:
yeah,
music and scaling.
yeah, and a lot of those live action games just honestly just suck. But that's what they were trying to push when they actually had a whole huge library of like really great games.
Yeah, like Lunar.
Lunar, yeah. Actually, Sega Lord X had a very good video about that, where he's like, "Let's save the Sega CD," and he had like, pretending of like, basically Sega was like, "Okay, we're gonna lock in with this add-on, and we're really gonna like push it." And some of his ideas, I'm like, "Wow, I really wish they would have done that." One of them being would have been bundles. So it'd been like, "Hey, you can have the entire Sonic collection on CD,"
Hmm.
stuff like that, or the entire Golden Axe trilogy on on the CD. Just do stuff like that where you could have that and sell those for actually cheaper than you would like more of a AAA title games.
Yeah, because the bundling strategy was a proven thing for Sega
Hmm.
back then because they sold a
Yeah,
lot of Genesises bundling in Sonic. Did they
bundling
ever
in Sonic.
bundle Sonic CD with the Sega CD? Like you're just doing that.
You could get the you could get the I believe you could get the Genesis Sega CD combo together.
With
Um,
CDX.
Well, then they had the CDX also, but I'm talking about like I actually think they had like a because you could buy the Sega CD separate as separate in a separate box and take it home and add it to your Genesis. But I think they actually had a Genesis Sega CD combo box where you got both system like the system and the add-on together. That's what I'm trying to say. Where they sold them in like one big bundle. Um, I think I'm not sure, but that sounds like something they would have done.
Hmm.
But um, But yeah,
But
like
yeah, I think the
but yeah,
transition from the Genesis to the Saturn was really key.
yeah. And and here's the thing about Sega, what I you know about the entire company is like I said before, the almost antagonistic uh rivalry between the Japanese branch and the American branch was one thing, but it always seemed like Sega would come out with these great innovations, right? They would just do these great things, and for some reason they would put once they got so far ahead in the game, it's like they took out a gun aimed at their foot and just started firing it off. You know, it's like
Yeah,
they
yeah.
shoot themselves in
Sega
the foot
Sega was a
constantly.
master of snapping defeat from the whatever you want to say, but also
Snapping defeat from the jaws of victory every single time.
yeah.
And the 32X is one of those, which they really should have just doubled down on.
All
Like,
right.
here's the thing.
Oh, before you do that, I want to read the comment. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Uh,
Yeah.
Anime Night says, "What a time it was to be alive. The Big Three, the War of the '90s, so much back and forth. It was funny." Yes,
Oh, yeah. Oh, you had the big three. I guess you talking about the TurboGrafx 16.
I guess
'Cause
so. Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to think of what the third system would be, and I remember vaguely seeing that on TV. Um, I remember like Bonk was on that. Um, I remember I don't know anybody who had a TurboGrafx 16, and anyone, yeah, and I'm tell you what, you want to talk about collectability. Holy crap! You want to get a TurboGrafx 16? You need to start go to the bank and get a mortgage
Oh
because
yeah.
they are ridiculously expensive to collect for. That's a collector who's got money to spend. That's not a
Well,
budget collector.
that there's two types of rich people consoles. There's the TG16 and Neo Geo. Neo Geo collectors are on a whole like that is like you got to be a billionaire to collect for Neo Geo.
Oh yeah, yeah. Neo Geo. Basically, we're literally bringing the arcade home to you. Literally a giant arcade board, and we're gonna slap it in a giant cartridge.
All right. I'm gonna play this.
Genesis does.
Yes.
16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
16-bit sports action.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis Genesis does.
Get Joe Montana free, Pat Riley free, Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Collins free. What Nintendon't? Buy a 16-bit Genesis system between now and October 31st and get an extra game.
Now, what's
Yeah,
funny about that Buster Douglas game? You know why they gave him a game?
because he knocked out Tyson.
He knocked out Tyson, and that basically was Sega being very petty, and that was their version of Mike Tyson's Punch Out. They were like, "Hey, you want to play Mike Tyson's Punch Out, or you want to play the boxer who knocked him out?" Of course, this is like, when Tyson wasn't even in his prime anymore.
And you know what? You know what? My most hilarious anecdote is like if you read the Console War book, they watched Buster Douglas's next fight and he got his ass whooped, and they're like, "Let's lean into it. Who cares? We're already screwed anyway."
Might as well. Yeah. Um. Yeah, they had Moonwalker, which was, I believe, it was exclusive. So you had the Michael Jackson game.
Mhm.
Um. Which actually a fun game, actually.
Joe Montana Football, which was like a lot of Sega's games are answered to Nintendo. Like Joe Montana was an answer to Tecmo Bowl.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing is Sega had really good sports titles. So if you had a sports fan in your house, yeah, you definitely they could scratch
Yeah,
that
like
itch.
yeah. The other thing is a lot of the EA titles, um, yeah, they came out on Super Nintendo, but they're kind of better on Genesis.
Yeah, back before EA was a scumbag, but
Yeah,
back when EA was a respectable company at one time, ladies and gentlemen, they were.
like EA supported the Genesis very well, like games like Road Rash.
Oh yes, Road Rash, definitely classic game. One of actually, that's gonna be actually on my one of my top. Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me. Yeah, Road Rash is gonna be on one of my top lists for Genesis
That is a
games.
game that needs a reboot so bad.
Oh yeah, that needs a reboot. It needs a violent reboot.
Yes.
I want to see blood and gore as I beat the shit out of some guy with a chain as I'm speeding down Tokyo, or something like that. Um, but yeah, like
Outrun.
Outrun, yeah, and that's another thing too. They had really great racing games. Um, Sega Rally was awesome. It's time for Sega Rally.
Outrun, another good one.
Yeah. Um, but they had that. They had oh, and of course, you can't talk about Sega without talking about the whole we're talking about like console exclusives. You can't talk about that without talking about Mortal Kombat.
Oh God, the Blood Code.
That was also another system seller. Was Mortal Kombat on the Genesis?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because
So
Nintendo,
so yeah
yeah,
yeah.
Nintendo
Let's set the
want,
scene.
yeah, Nintendo
So
wanted to be.
Mortal Kombat was a huge hit in the arcades. All right, and so they're doing the
That's an
so they're doing
understatement, by the way.
yeah. I think it made like 2 billion in quarters
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something.
yeah. Just yeah. I don't. If anybody who did not live during that time doesn't know, Mortal Kombat was the game to play at the arcade. But yeah, continue. I'm just just wanted.
Yeah, in the
Yeah, I
early
just wanted to
'90s.
set that down. Yeah, I just wanted to
In the
like
early '90s,
solidify that.
there were two camps of fighting gamers in the early '90s. You're either a Street Fighter 2 guy or a Mortal Kombat guy.
Yep, exactly.
Mid to late '90s, that you were either Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, or Tekken. But that was about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that wasn't until like later on. Um,
but
but
yeah,
so yeah,
Nintendo.
so
I was
the
saying
home ports
Nintendo was
were
yeah. I'm
the
sorry. Go
home
ahead.
ports were coming. And Nintendo was still in like its censorship thing. Um,
Yep.
so Sega, and they didn't. And this is the genius part. It's not that they included it by default. They had a blood code.
Yep.
Gave them a bit of a plausible deniability, some extraction. So because
Yep.
it had blood, it sold better.
Yeah. And that's what people wanted. They wanted the arcade. They wanted to go home and get that arcade again. They wanted to go home and get that arcade feel at home, and that's the thing. And Mortal Kombat, like I said, cannot be understated. Was an absolute powerhouse in the arcades. That thing was guaranteed to make you money if you had a cabinet. You know,
Mm-hmm. Like
like
technically, the Super Nintendo is like technically better, but nobody cares. Nobody cares.
blood code. That's what people wanted. People wanted blood and guts and stuff, and that's what they wanted. They wanted to go home and get the arcade perfect one. Now Nintendo. Now when it came out with Mortal Kombat 2, Nintendo had learned their lesson, and Mortal Kombat 2 is pretty much the same. Mortal Kombat 2 is the same on the Genesis.
Look
They're
at
both
that. Look
yeah,
at that.
yeah. Mortal Wombat.
Wombat. I'm sorry if my voice is a little bit weird. I'm still a little bit under the weather. Castor gave me a plague.
Yeah.
I'm still mad at you.
Wrong vial. Sorry.
You're lucky you didn't kill me.
Yeah.
But look at that. Look how quick it is. Look how like snappy it. Like this was a good port. Like it's obviously it's a bit compromised, but perfectly serviceable for Mortal Kombat 1.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like when people went home, this is what they got to play, and this is if you bring up like the arcade version, yeah, you're gonna be like, oh my god, arcade version looks so amazing, but as a slightly stripped down version, this is amazing. It had the voices and everything, it had the fatalities, the blood. This is what you went to the arcade for. It was like you could just go home and play this instead of pumping quarters into a machine.
Yeah,
Um,
Herman. I got the con crud. I got it pretty bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
The con crud.
the crud.
Yeah, look at that blood. And that right there is what made Congress enact the ESRB.
Oh yeah, that was a wild time.
That
Like
was a wild
if you ever
time.
watch it, Howard Lincoln, he's just throwing Sega under the bus wholesale. Like he is not even being nice about it. He's like, you see them? You see them? They're the enemy. We're the nice people.
Yeah. This scene in particular gave a lot of people frustration because you had to like watch for Santa Claus going across the moon and do this and that, and maybe somebody named Ermac would show up It never
Which,
did.
Oh God, which Air Mac is actually what was short for error macro, and it just kind of
Yeah.
took on a life of its own.
Yeah, this is like where I love how rumors about games started, in in these days.
It's like
Like
the
we
whole
had,
reason like Shenlong came from mistranslation of
oh
the
yeah,
original Street Fighter 2.
yeah,
And now
yeah,
he's like a whole character.
yeah, it's a whole character now. But yeah, back in the day, it was like you could make somebody named Air Max show up, because it was like because during the stats it would say how many Air Max appeared, and you're like Air Mac, what's Air Mac? Who's Air
All
Mac?
right,
But yeah,
all right, Castor. I need you to take your band hammer and go to Twitch because we got a bot.
hold on, I gotta switch over to.
All right, and then while he's doing that, um, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite Sega Genesis games. Um, like another one for me that I really enjoyed was Shadowrun. Like that was another one of those games to where it was like totally different, whether it was on the Genesis or Super Nintendo. Like not just like gameplay differences, like entirely different games. All right, let me just do that. Yeah, so on the Super Nintendo, it was more like a like an adventure game. This one, it's just straight up like an RPG and some shit. Black Paper Kai's like, yeah. I do love me some Shadowrun. I love like the universe and all that stuff. Yeah, just kind of holding down the fort here. Another one that I really enjoyed was I think it was BattleTech. This is another game that like I feel like doesn't really get talked about a lot because like when you talk about BattleTech, it's mostly like the PC or like the PlayStation ones. But all right. Was your bot hunting mission successful, sir?
Oh, I got him. It's just some reason it kicked me out. Like when I was switching over to Twitch, some reason it kicked me out. I guess because the video started running.
It happens.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was
What were
just
you?
talking
What
about.
were you? What were you playing? Just a minute. A Shadowrun. Yeah.
I was talking about Shadowrun. Now we're talking about BattleTech.
Oh yeah. Look how good that looks.
Yeah, I feel like this game doesn't really get talked about a lot in terms of Sega Genesis games.
Mm-hmm.
Like another game series where, like yes, a lot of these were on like Desert Strike, the Strike games.
Mm-hmm.
Like yes, they were like yes, a lot of them were on the Super Nintendo, but I kind of see them as Genesis games.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I do. And oh yeah, I had another thought here. So we were talking about arcade perfect games and stuff. There's one game that came out that was a really big game at the time, and you could play it on your home console, and it was big in the arcade, and that was Virtua Fighter.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that was definitely because that was like one of the first fighting games to make the leap into 3D.
Yeah, that game was kind of a bit of a selling point for the 32X, not gonna lie.
Yeah, it was because again because you were bringing the arcade home, you were bringing Virtua Fighter home, and of course they had it on the Sega Saturn. But yeah, a big thing that you could play it. Yeah. Now it looks terrible now, but believe me, back in '95, this was amazing.
This is the 32X version.
Yeah, 32X
With
version.
the
I actually own this.
Yeah, with the Saturn, I feel like Virtua Fighter 2 is really where
Now,
things got.
what's actually kind of interesting is, I was gonna say, go back to the footage of, if you could, of Virtual Fighter there.
Oh, I was just pulling up. All
Oh,
right, one sec.
all
One
right.
sec. I can do it. Virtua Fighter 1 on the 32X.
Yeah, on 32X. I was gonna bring up an interesting point. Something in the
All right,
background there.
all right, sure. Just give me a sec.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. So you see in the background the clouds, that static clouds in the back.
Yeah.
That's actually the Genesis doing that. Everything in the foreground, all the 32, all the fighting game stuff, that's actually the 32X. In the background, that's the Genesis doing that. And what I mean to say is, like, if you, okay, so you know how there's a connection cable that goes from the video out into, uh, you take the video out of the Genesis and go into the video in of the 32X, right? There's this little cable
Yes.
that connects them.
Yes.
If you do not have that cable hooked up and you just pop the 32X down, put Virtual Fighter in, all the 3D stuff will not show up, but the clouds in the background will show up.
That is wild.
That is wild. But you'll hear the gameplay, but the Genesis can't handle what the 32X is bringing to the table. So the Genesis was working in tandem with the 32X. So yeah, so all that in the background, that's the Sega Genesis doing that part.
That's actually really cool. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, and everything in the foreground is just the 32X running. So if you were not have that cable in the back and put that on the screen, you would just see the background and the background moving back and forth, and you would hear the characters fighting, but you wouldn't see the floor or the characters. Because I did that with Virtua Racing, and I just kept seeing clouds going back and forth and hearing the cars revving up, and I was like, oh. But
Oh,
once you
Virtua Racing.
Virtua Racing,
That's
which,
another game we should probably talk about because like that was Sega being like, oh, Nintendo has their Super Effects chip. Well, we can do that,
yeah.
and they
Now
only
they,
did it like once.
and then they had a Genesis version, but they also had the 32X version.
Black Reaper guy's like, so when it comes to 32X games, the one that stands out to me is Star Wars Arcade.
That's actually
That
a very
was
decent game.
Yeah, really good.
It's got the John Williams theme in it.
Which I'm very glad we're doing this silently because
Yeah,
nothing gets you copyright quicker than putting some Star Wars music on.
yeah. I actually own Star Wars, the arcade game. Yeah,
But
there's
like,
actually
just imagine it's 1994 and you get this home. This would be amazing for like a little kid in '94.
oh yeah, because this was the arcade game that you could go play in the arcades at Aladdin's Castle and stuff. Um,
Oh
the
yeah.
32X games that I currently own is I own Virtual Fighter, Virtual Racing. Um, oh, what is
You own this
it?
one?
Oh yeah, I also Star Wars. I own that one.
Knuckles
Eh,
Chaotix?
Nope, too expensive. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe
What about the
sometime later.
Spider-Man game?
That's also another one that's extremely expensive.
Yeah, I think the Spider-Man game is like the most expensive one.
I own Virtual Fighter, Virtual Racing. I own the Star Wars arcade game, and I own NBA Jam for the 32X. That's probably the definitive way to play NBA Jam is on the 32X. I have to say,
Really?
yeah, because it's fun. It's fun on the Genesis, but the 32X adds a little bit more, just a little bit more to it.
Yeah, here's the honestly, for it being like the most expensive game, it feels like it's not worth it because this just looks like a Genesis game.
Yeah, it really isn't. Yeah, it doesn't look that impressive.
Like
Um,
Knuckles Chaotix did some interesting stuff. Like I that's fine.
yeah,
Plus, it's a Sonic game, so I get it.
And then I do own one Sega CD 32X game, which is Night Trap.
Oh gosh, I did like a full playthrough for Halloween last year. That
Yeah.
that game is actually a lot more difficult than you think.
Oh yeah.
Because like you gotta pay like there's certain events that happen at certain times, and you gotta like pay attention to like what the code changes. It's so wild.
And also another game that was brought up during those hearings of making the ESRB.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I will
so
say once you kind of get the hang of Night Trap, it can be kind of fun.
yeah.
But it's a very obtuse game. It's like one of those games you got to play on its terms.
So my final thoughts on the 32X to me really is that I feel like objectively as an add-on it is good. It just was not good for the company to make it. But if people want to make homebrews or make their own games and for it, that would be awesome. I
Yeah, I
think
feel like I will
I
say I feel like the 32X was kind of an unnecessary. Like it should not have happened.
it should not happen.
That being said, it never really got to show its full potential, and I
Yeah,
would like to see Homebrew
yeah,
showcase the 32X's full potential because like it's pretty powerful. The 32X is I think it's probably even more powerful than like the Jaguar and the 3DO.
yeah, yeah. It could definitely have gone. It could go toe to toe a little bit with the original PlayStation early on.
Not by much, not by much though.
Not by much, not by much, but it could be in the room with it. But eventually, yeah. But yeah, I'm not saying they're on equal footing, but it could get there. It could almost get there. Because
Right.
technically, they're both 32 systems, 32-bit systems. Um, but
It's
the thing is, like there's that guy who's doing the Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the Sega Genesis. I would love to see something like that on the 32X. You know,
yeah.
but there is also there's Doom Resurrection right now, which is a homebrew of it's basically Doom made perfect on the 32X.
And someone's
Um,
also speaking of Doom, somebody is porting Sonic Robo Blast 2 to the 32X.
really,
Yeah, like the Doom one. Also, are you familiar with Open Laura?
I yes,
All right, so here is Tomb Raider running on the 32X.
yeah. I don't know
This
how
is
you would be,
insane. This is
yeah,
legit insane. Legit insane.
yeah, and this is what I meant by like it could run some early PlayStation games and yeah.
This is on the 32X.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how you would be able to play this game with the limited buttons that you had.
I mean, I think with the 6-button controller, you could probably make it work.
Yeah, I think it could, but definitely had to get used to it. But
Like, this is running pretty good.
yeah,
To be fair, they got Open Lore to work on the GBA, so, like, anything's possible, really.
yeah. So I would actually love to have this as a homebrew for 32X.
That
Um,
literally is a homebrew for 32X.
that's what I'm saying. I would like to I love to have it physically, not just download. I actually had to have a nice cartridge that has a nice label on it.
I mean, I'm sure you can either get it on Etsy or you can have someone make it for you.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like if people like again, if people were like, hey, we're gonna make Genesis games or 32X games, and they're doing like a Kickstarter, and you're gonna get like an actual physical copy of something, I'm on that shit. I would love that.
Oh, did you see what they did for Sonic 3? They actually released for a promo. They actually released a brand new Genesis cartridge. They had the
Really?
trailer for Sonic 3 on it.
Oh yes, yes, I remember that. Yes, it has
That was so
yeah,
freaking cool.
yeah. That was amazing.
Like, I cannot believe they did that. I'm looking up, trying to look up footage of it. Like, honestly, like, that would be something that, like, all right, I'm paying $15,000 for this, but I'm doing it because I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, God, look how cool this is.
This is running on a Sega Genesis, folks.
Yeah. Oh, my God. It is so crusty. It is so bad, but, oh, I love it. Okay, can you imagine, like, taking this cartridge, going back to 1993, and showing, like, young Castor this cartridge?
It'd blow my mind of how good they could do it.
Or, like, just Jim Carrey as Robotnik.
Yeah. Well, you gotta understand honestly, the Genesis was good at making digitized, sprites. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, you think about it, swap these for Mortal Kombat characters, and there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it did run digitized sprites pretty well, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I like how they got, like, a Mortal Kombat screen. I don't know if that was intentional or not.
Yeah.
Let me, let's go further. But, like, for as high resolution as they are, they actually came out pretty good.
Oh yeah, it looks amazing.
Kira Slide. I love that they did that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and I definitely wasted no time because, like, I was doing Kira Slide for my comic as well. So
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, yeah, I was posting it everywhere. Oh my God, look at that.
That looks so good.
Yeah. Um, and they're showing the trailer on it, like little clips of it. That is so.
Oh yeah.
I love it. Like, this is a promo card. It's promo, but still, I love it. I freaking love it.
So I
Like,
guess it's time to talk about the Dreamcast.
Yeah, we put it off long enough.
We've talked
I
about it
love
many
how
times.
I love how I intentionally made this an all Sega episode. We just talked about the Genesis, a little bit of Saturn, but mostly Genesis for like an hour and a half. I love you guys.
Well, I mean, really, you think about it. That's the Genesis was basically Sega's workhorse. Because you have you got the Genesis coming out in 1989, and about still making games for it into like 96, 97, really. and
Yeah,
when the Saturn, or when the PlayStation was out, they were still making games for it. And then in 1998, Majestic Sales Company, which is now defunct,
Majesco.
Majesco Sales Incorporated, they went to Sega and they said, "Hey, can we uh, basically license the Genesis?" And so basically, Sega said, "Okay, yeah, you can go ahead and do that." So Majesco took the entire library, re-released it basically, um, and then made the Sega Genesis 3, which is also known as the Puck, which I actually have that also.
Yeah, that
uh,
is um
and
yeah.
and then 2 years later in 2000 they re-released the Sega Game Gear.
Yeah,
Um,
honestly, before we get on the Dreamcast, I just want to say, um imagine if Sega had re-released the Game Gear and it only, like, it was a slip, like a Sega Genesis, Sega Game Gear Mini. But like it only took two double A's, lasted a lot longer, but it played the same games because graphically the Game Gear could have held its own against the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
Like if they just released a slimmed down version that still played all the old games, like plus new ones, they actually might have been able to make that work, in my opinion.
Well, see, and that's what killed me was the fact that they made a slimmed down version of the Genesis, but they didn't make a slimmed down version of the uh, of the Game Gear. And honestly, they shouldn't even made a slimmed down version of the Genesis. What they should have done was they should have made a more streamlined Nomad and went with that. But I don't know what was going through their heads. Their heads basically they want to just re-release it and make the it was basically licensed to print money. But what's crazy was they released it at like I think $60-$50, and within a year it was down to $20.
I mean, and the hardware
three.
for the Genesis 3 is a piece of crap. Let's be honest.
It is. And it doesn't connect to any kind of add-ons too. So without mod help, I think you can with a mod you can give it RGB. You can give it an RGB bypass. They do have those mods for it, and also you can mod it to play like to have the 32X on it, which looks absolutely hilarious. It looks so top heavy because you got this teeny Genesis, this giant 32X on top of it.
It's not a tumor.
Yeah, it really does. It looks like the Sega is sick. And but of course, it can't play CD games. There's no way to hook onto it.
Yeah, can you hook the 32X up to the CDX?
The CDX, I'm pretty sure you could, but you'd probably need a mod to like read it.
And for those who are wondering, the CDX was a Genesis and Sega CD combination, but it was also Sega like trying to make a portable CD player for some reason. It's a really weird system, but I find the CDX to be oddly fascinating.
It is. It has a little port in the back for like a little cartridge slot in the back of it, and then it has the the CD the CD part, and it kind of really is the holy grail of collectors.
I've seen them. I've seen several of them. They look really cool. Like I'd love to own one.
They look really cool, and yeah.
All right, so we're gonna do a call to action before the Dreamcast, but I just want to say, one more thing about the Saturn. One of the most interesting things about the Saturn that Sega should have done is it had a cartridge port in the back, and you can actually boot games directly from that cartridge. Imagine if they'd actually release cartridge games for the Saturn using that.
Yeah. Or imagine if it was backwards compatible.
Oh God.
And you could play your Sega CD, Sega Genesis games on your Saturn, and you have that backwards compatibility. Think about that. That would have been great.
Yeah, Sega Neptune.
Yep, that's exactly
but
what it
all right. Before we go on to this part, just want to say, if you're here, please like the video. You've been commenting, subscribe if you can. But we're gonna do our member shoutouts. So we're partially monetized, so we got super chats, and we have members. For $5, you can become a torchbearer for the channel. You get a shout out on every stream. You get emojis. Bruce is mean. LOL. I have no idea what he's talking about. So shout out to Jared from Comics League, JB, and Jason Ingram. They're 3 members. And if you too would like to be a member, just sign up. So Castor. Yeah. I have a Dreamcast. Well, I wish I did anyway.
Yeah. I have a Dreamcast.
I hate you. But yeah, the Sega Dreamcast. The Sega Dreamcast is the Firefly of video game consoles.
Yeah. Yeah. Released again. It's a '90s console. Um, but it was meant to be out there before the PlayStation 2. So it came out in 1999. Um,
Technically came out in 1998, and
yeah.
in my opinion, there's two things that the Dreamcast could have done, and it might have survived. One, double the RAM to 32 gigs. Two, wait a year and release the Dreamcast with a frickin' DVD drive.
Yes.
Because what you do is you release it in Japan with a DVD drive, but then you release it in America 6 months early, before the PS2. Because like the whole thing about the PS2 is it's a DVD drive. So if you can take that away, like because imagine this, okay? Also, I think I like, and also you're still selling the Dreamcast for $199. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the PS2 was still $299.
Mm-hmm.
Let me look that up real quick. I guess.
And the thing is, you're going to lose money. You're going to lose money on hardware, okay? But here's where we make our money. Software, software, software. We sell them games,
because
baby.
it's all about getting market penetration. So
Yes.
the PS2 is $299. Okay. You sell even if you sell the Dreamcast at $250. Let's say you sell it at $250. Okay. With even and let's take out the broadband, the adapter thing. Let's save a little bit of money because DVD player. So basically you have $50 cheaper DVD player. It'll have more games because it'll be out longer.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the Dreamcast would have beaten the PS2, but I think the Dreamcast would have been number 2.
It would have been a heavy contender.
It would have beaten the GameCube. It would have definitely beaten the GameCube.
Yeah. And I wonder, could Xbox have even entered this market, or would they hit? It would
not have.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we may never have gotten the Xbox, and
because the Xbox is the closest. The original Xbox is the closest thing we ever got to a Dreamcast 2.
Yeah.
At one point, Sega actually asked the Xbox to have backwards compatibility with the Dreamcast.
Mm. So imagine that. Imagine in some alternate timeline, Microsoft invests in with Sega, and their
they
Dreamcast.
were at first. They were.
And and so we have Halo on the Dreamcast.
I think in this timeline, because you got to realize, Microsoft bought Halo because they're gearing up for their console launch. Like the Xbox not coming out is a huge ripple effect. Like Halo would have still came out on the Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Like we might have gotten Halo on the PS2 and the Dreamcast in this timeline.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the two limiting factors for the Dreamcast, RAM and disk storage, because it only has 16 megs of RAM.
Yeah.
The PS2 had 32. Xbox had 64. Xbox is kind of a league of its own in terms of performance.
Yeah.
But if it had 32 megs of RAM, it would have been on par with the PS2. And if it could play DVDs, storage-wise, it would have been on par. Especially if the Dreamcast had gotten that zip drive slot. That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
The zip drive expansion would have allowed it to have like the storage.
And also, you could also at a later time, since in this timeline we're not having an adapter for the modem, we can always have that as a separate accessory to sell.
Like in this timeline, I could see Final Fantasy XI coming out on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. As I'm saying, I think in this alternate timeline, I do think that if in the alternate timeline that we get a successful Dreamcast, I think the Dreamcast would have been the system to bring the masses, the common person, to internet gaming.
Yeah, because the thing is, Sega would have just taken Xbox's slot. Like the
Yeah,
technological innovator.
yeah.
Um, yeah, like oh gosh, it's really interesting with this timeline because like GTA 3 would have come out on the Dreamcast. Um, because it would have been popular and it could have handled it. It would have had the tech. Because if you look at like the graphical capabilities, the PS2 and the Dreamcast are somewhat on par, and in some cases the Dreamcast can do things better than the PS2.
Hmm. And I remember a an EGM article, or it might have been Tips and Tricks. I don't know, but I remember a video game magazine was actually taking like side by side screenshots of like Dead or Alive for the Dreamcast and Dead or Alive for the PlayStation, and they were like breaking down like all the
They were going full Digital Foundry on it.
yeah, they were just like sitting there going, okay, so how many edges do we have here, and look how crisper this image looks over here, and like, yeah, they were breaking it down because I remember they were trying to show, but honestly, I thought they looked almost identical. So it really, so for like you said, for some things, the Dreamcast could run games just as well as the PS2 could.
Yeah, and I think its RAM is kind of the thing that allows like the big open worlds.
Hmm.
Um, like I'm not saying the Dreamcast is going to get Morrowind. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Which also, that's another thing, because the thing that made Bethesda popular was porting Morrowind on the Xbox.
Now,
Without
do you think
Morrowind would have still been
eventually?
successful, but it would have been a PC exclusive.
Well, I'm saying, do you think eventually that in this timeline, Dreamcast would increase the size of their disk space so they could get these ports?
You mean like the hard drive space? Because like as far as the
Well,
discs, you can't really do that in this time period.
okay. Well, I thought,
Um,
well, yeah, the space for like, yeah, memory and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, that's not something you can really do. I will be right back. Can you hold down the fort?
yeah.
Hey, I'll still be able to hear you.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Castor Show. I finally took it over.
Screw you!
Ah, yes, my master plan has went into effect. That vial has finally worked. It's now the Castor Press. No. Oh yeah, but no, yeah, it's been really fun here. I reminiscing with everyone here in the chat. Black Reaper Kai, you say I'm playing Raft, a game. A game. There's a shark, and his name is Bruce. Is that the same Bruce from Finding Nemo?
It's a Jaws reference
I know.
because the animatronic shark in Jaws was called Bruce.
Yeah, but
Ugh.
I'm playing Raft. I'm trying to remember. That sounds familiar.
All right. So yeah, like honestly, it's hard to speculate beyond that generation because like if we
Yeah.
start going to like PS3, like Wii territory, there are so many unknowns. I can't speculate like what console they do after that for what Sega would do. I just can't.
Oh yeah. All we can do is just try to come up with it is a reference to the devs. Okay.
Okay.
But you're on a raft. Well,
Hmm.
seeing how the game is called Raft, yes, I imagine you are. And there is water. Go on. Go on.
But no, like I was talking about, like if Morrowind doesn't come out on the Xbox, I mean, I still see it being successful on PC, but it was it being on Xbox that really took Bethesda to the next level.
Oh yeah, and I think
Like,
that's the thing about the Xbox was, whereas before the market was we want these arcade games to come to the system. At this point now, it's we want these PC games to come to the systems. Because
yeah,
at this point, the arcade is pretty much dead. At least in America, it's thriving
yeah.
in Japan, but in America, the arcade in the late '90s, it was still there. It was not as good as it was. It
It's
was.
not the driver of the industry it once was.
It's not. It's definitely not the driver of the industry as it once was. The home console market has pretty much conquered the arcade at that point. Now it's, can we get a PC port to these consoles?
And
And
the Xbox did
Morrowind
a lot.
said yes.
Yeah, like I mean, and the Xbox, it wasn't it like people. I don't know. I feel like people don't talk about the original Xbox as much as they should because it had some very key games: Halo, Morrowind, Star Wars: Knights of the Republic.
Mhm. Definitely.
Yeah. When I was a young warthog. All right. Um. All right. So we're gonna start wrapping up. I'm gonna try and stretch this for the next 13 minutes because I want to get to about 2 hours. But next week, we'll be doing an episode on Doom, the game, the impact, and can Castor himself run Doom?
Uh, well, you can pretty much run Doom on anything, really.
We shall see.
I've seen
Joining us,
Doom run on a smart refrigerator before.
I've seen it run on a pregnancy test.
I think I've seen the same thing.
Oh
I've seen
God!
Skyrim on a pregnancy test, oddly enough.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
What is that? Is like a really powerful pregnancy test?
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that next week. Joining us will be Lugs Berserg. Got to say his name right. I mean, he is the Doom guy, so we got to bring the man on.
Yeah. I wouldn't feel comfortable without him on there because he's definitely the Doom man.
Yeah, so
The
that's going to
Doom
be really
man.
good. And then tomorrow, I'll be doing Comics Watch with Jared, and we'll be reviewing Daredevil, Born Again. Are you excited for the new Netflix series, Caster?
Uh, for what, Daredevil?
Yeah.
I never really did watch Daredevil. So is this a brand new one or is it like a Disney Plus kind of thing?
It's a continuation of the Netflix series.
Okay, no, I have not seen it. So, but I do like Daredevil. So yeah, you know what? I'll give it a watch.
Yeah, like at least watch the 3 seasons that came out on Netflix. Those are pretty good.
Okay. Is this like
Yeah,
the same? Is this the same thing like the Punisher came out on that?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Netflix had its own little pocket universe.
Yeah. It had like Iron Fist, Punisher, and Daredevil, didn't it?
Luke Cage and Jessica Jones.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I remember it had yeah, it had its own because people were wondering like, was it part of the MCU or not? You know.
Well, the thing about it was the Netflix during that time when they're doing the Netflix stuff, there was like this Netflix adjacent where the show was like it acted like it was in the MCU. Like they'd reference the Battle of New York, they'd reference like Thor and other people.
Yeah.
But none of the stuff ever got referenced in the movies. The
Yeah.
same thing happened with like Agents of Shield.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just like some weird shenanigans at the time. And then when Disney Plus was doing their shows, originally the Netflix stuff wasn't canon. They even brought back the original Daredevil, but they're a little bit mum on it. But now it's fully canon.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So yeah, you can watch the Netflix stuff and it'll continue on. See, I'm excited for it. I've been reading Born Again. It is a crazy story. Not gonna lie. Um,
Okay.
I've read bits and pieces of it before, but never the whole thing. Ugh. So, Castor, let me ask you a question. What did we
Yes.
learn today?
We learned that Sega likes to shoot themselves in the foot. we learned that we learned that you know Sega. It was just such a wonderful time to be alive. During that time of the 16-bit war, the 32-bit war, and all that stuff. Um, Sega versus whoever at the time. It was a magical moment. There was a lot of great games for all the systems that came out. You know, and I don't know. It's just, and I love to see like the fans and the love letters that are made to Sega. And that's the thing is like it's met with such fond warmness, and it's just it's there's just it's more. I think it's more of just like the community. You feel nostalgic, yes, but it's so much better when you can feel that nostalgia with friends and compatriots who also experience that.
Yeah,
It's kind of a communal thing. Um, have you seen the Sega Hard Girls?
the Sega what?
The Sega Hard Girls.
Oh God.
Type in. Maybe we can watch the intro. I don't know, but like the Sega Hard Girl intro. It was a show.
Um.
It was a show that came on about 10 years ago, and it is a love letter to Sega. And it stars the three main
Ooh.
characters: Mega Drive, Sega Saturn, and Dreamcast.
All right. All right. So help me out here.
Yeah, that first one. Yeah, that first video.
This one.
Yeah, that one right there.
All right. There will be no sound, by the way. I mean, I'll hear the sound. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. It's about these girls going to the Sega Academy and learning about the history of Sega. And
Oh
this is,
my God.
yeah,
I need to watch this. I need to watch this so bad.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah, every episode they reference so many like Sega games.
my God. Oh my God. I might have to watch this.
Yeah, and you can actually buy. They actually have like a whole like Sega Hard Girl like universe. Um,
Yeah,
each
I saw they
console,
did a. I saw
each
they did a.
console, and each add-on has its own like separate personality. So there's Sega
32X
CD.
Spoon.
Yeah, there's 32X Sega CD. My favorite one is you saw the girl with the glasses. That was Mega Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she has her American cousin, Jenny. Yeah, her cousin who went to America, and she's wearing like all kind of cowboy stuff with like American flags and stuff on it.
Oh, what
But
about
it
Game Gear?
yeah, there's Game Gear. Game Gear looks amazing. I'll have to send that to you real quick. Yeah, they got Game Gear, Sega Saturn. Um, there's Master System. I really wish they actually. I actually have a. I'll have to show it to you later, but I actually do have a Mega Drive figure. I love her. She's awesome.
Oh.
Let's see here.
I do like the trend of like making random stuff like cute anime girls.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Let me see here. We got Yeah, here we go.
Imagine if the dude from My Uncle's from Another World saw that anime.
Oh, it'd been amazing. Here we
Also,
go.
I want to see a story where the uncle encounters the Dreamcast.
That would be amazing.
All right, let me look at this. Let's see your images. Oh, she's got the hoodie thing on that. Oh, and her hair is the colors. That is.
Their hair is the colors, but if you'll notice, her backpack and her hoodie are the TV tuner.
I love the details. That is so cool.
Yeah. And see, notice her the white in the middle there. That's the screen. And then you got
Yes.
the start button and the A and B button. Yeah, that's so cool. I love it. I wish they actually made a figure of her, but they don't have any. But yeah,
Have you
my
played Hyperdimension Neptunia?
um no, but I believe that yeah, I think I've heard of it. I think
Yeah, it's like
um
a personification of like games. I think they even
yes,
have a character that's supposed to represent the R4 cards.
yeah, but actually they actually teamed up with the Sega Hard Girls. That's
That
how I
is.
know that. That's how I know about that game. Um, but
Hmm.
one of my favorite parts is when the Sega Hard Girls go to the Sega Academy. They're like, okay, everybody stand up for our school pledge, and they're like, okay, and all it is Sega,
Oh my god! Like
and they're
you have
like,
no
yeah,
idea. Um,
and Saturn looks around and she's like, is that it? It's
like
just
you have no idea. Oh
what
god. Okay.
brain fart.
No. I was like looking up stuff because I just
Oh
love
yeah.
this anime.
Yeah, for those who don't know, this anime is about a guy who goes to another world, becomes overpowered and everything, but he is the biggest Sega nerd in the world. And he makes a lot of Sega references. Actually, his costume is a homage to Joe Musashi from Shinobi, because he's got the gray and the red.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the fact that he gets the girl to sing Starlight Zone from Sonic, that I died laughing. I thought that is so amazing. But yeah, Uncle from Another World, if you want to watch it, I believe it is currently on Netflix. So there's like, what, 10, 13 episodes. Go watch it. It's great. If you're a Sega fan or just a video game fan in general, just go watch it. It's funny.
Also,
But
I just gotta say, any guy who's ever had a girlfriend, yeah, you can relate to what she says. I love this anime so much. I want it to have a season 2 so bad.
oh no, I'm gonna look up later and see if they ever are going to do that because it needs a season two.
Uh, it got really delayed from because of like COVID.
Oh yeah.
Um, but they did finish season 1 at least.
Okay. Good.
Right, here's a Reddit post from July of 2024. Um, there isn't really enough content for the manga for season 2 on the current art wraps up. So I guess the manga has to catch up.
Okay. All right. I didn't know there was a manga. So hey,
Oh, oh God. Uh, season 2 will be airing on Japanese television streaming Disney Plus from January 8th, 2025.
oh wow.
Uh,
Okay.
Wait. Oh no! It's no longer. It's a different show.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. So, anyways,
Yeah, that really sucks. But hey, just to kind of finish things out. So Tuesday we will be doing Final Fantasy VII with the Pence. Castor will not be there. Friday I've not decided what we're doing for the Frenzy, and then Saturday we're continuing Control. So
a game where
thanks
you have
everybody.
none.
Literally. So I've talked enough. My voice is starting to go out. Goodbye, everyone.